You are listening to Blue Please, the Tuesday Assault, replacing the vendor strike that we blissfully did not do on Friday. So with myself, Total Biscuit, I would like to give a special mention to our sponsors, the guys who have basically allowed Cynical Brit to even exist, and were massive supporters of WoW Radio. They're called UGTservers.com. They are a fantastic Ventrilo provider. The Cynical Brit and the WoW Radio servers are provided by them. They have been rock solid the entire way, and they are great guys. So if you need a vent server for your guild, I would highly recommend it. I've used it, and I can guarantee that they can even deal with the decibel level of my ranting and raving. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is impressive. Okay. Can you deal with the decibel level of my ranting and raving? How about we find out, shall we? So, I've been in these YouTube videos, as you're probably well aware, coming up on just over a week now, and wow, what a week it's been, really. I think you guys are well aware of that. Here's the thing. I decided, just before I was going to go and have my birthday celebration over the weekend, that I would attempt to do a request. Requests, I don't tend to do requests. It's very odd. Requests, they bother me. The reason they bother me, I think, is because I think requests actually show an inherent lack of trust in the content producer, that they would have to listen to a viewer in order to put out something that people would enjoy. I mean, how often do you think that, say, a television network listens to requests? You know, they get a letter in from Joe Bloggs that said, you know what I'd really like? I'd like a show about flower pots. And I think a show about flower pots would be awesome. So can you make me a show about flower pots, please? So, television stations have big advantages over people like YouTube content producers and podcasters. One, they've got loads of money. Two, they've got loads of staff. And three, they have people who are there to work out what the demographic's going to enjoy. But here's the thing, I don't really need people for that, because I'm a WoW player, and I know what I enjoy. And I think I know what my fan base enjoys, because they've been listening to me for years. So, either they're some kind of weird masochists that desperately want to suffer by listening to every single one of my shows, which is entirely feasible, or they sort of share some of my opinions as to what's good and what isn't. However, against my better judgment, I decided to take a request, and that request was to do the Gnome starting zone. So I did, and it was awful. It was absolutely horrendous. Oh dear. So I posted the video, and I posted the video really for one purpose, as I mentioned very early on in the video. This is how not to do a starting zone. And as it happens, it got response from Blizzard 24 hours after the video went up. In response to a thread that mentioned my video on several occasions, they put out a list of what was complete and what was not. However, that list contradicts something that they said on the 8th of July before I posted the video, which was the Don Morrow Zone, quote from a blue right here, paraphrasing, the Don Morrow Zone is mostly complete and is mostly ready for testing. We need to make some minor changes. That's a paraphrase right there. Not the exact quote, but I'll find the exact quote and I'll put it in the show notes for you if you need some evidence. So, in reality, just because they said on the list later on that it's not finished, that doesn't mean that it wasn't in almost in the state that they were looking for. They said it. One of the Blues admitted it, so we've got to believe one of these things. Now, as far as I can tell, the Gnome starting zone is going to be moving up to Gnome again, and there are some quests set up there already, but you don't spawn there, and there's no quest to take you there in the early levels. So that's a pain in the ass. I assume that's all going to be sorted out. But what we're looking at the moment is the Dwarf starting zone, because they're the same thing right now. They're not going to be, but right now they're the same. So if you're saying to me that Dunmorrow is mostly complete and mostly ready for testing, then that indicates to me that there's only going to be minor changes done to Coldridge, which is where the Dwarf starting zone, the level 1 to 5, is located. Now here's the problem with the Dwarf starting zone, ladies and gentlemen. It sucks. Badly. I want to talk to you about how badly it sucks, why this should worry you, and how to do a proper starting zone. It's fairly easy to analyse how to do a proper starting zone thanks to the Cataclysm beta, because they've demonstrated on now 3, and as I've done the human starting zone, now 4 separate occasions, that they know how to create a more compelling starting zone experience. Now, of the 4 starting zones, other than the Gnome one that I've done so far, the human one definitely comes in last. but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's a lot better than it used to be, and it has advanced significantly. I don't want to tell you too much about it, but it's got quite a variety of quests. It's got some lore engagement with a major character, which is good, and it's got a fairly reasonable bit of fighting going on. What I also noticed, which you'll notice in the video, is that they've completely redone the starting quests that you get as a warrior. Now, I'm going to have to look these up because I don't play a warrior, so I don't know what the order of these quests is. Now, let me just have a look right here. I'm going to look for Victory Rush. Abilities. Victory Rush. When is this learned? Victory Rush is learned at level... Where is it? Oh, God. When do you learn Victory Rush? Can't even find it. That's extremely irritating. Taught by... Someone in the channel can tell me. Level 6 now. Well, level 6 now. It's not actually level 6 in the starting zone. It's actually now level 5. And if I remember correctly, someone please point out if I'm wrong, Heroic Strike used to get out very early, right? Am I correct in that assumption? Heroic Strike, indeed, you got it at level 1. You don't anymore. You don't get Heroic Strike at level 1. You now get it... Actually, I don't know when you get it, but I do know that you now get Slam at level 1. Slam is on your bar straight away. And obviously you get Charge really early as well, which you got anyway, but whatever the case is, it goes normal attack, Slam at level 1, then Charge, then Victory Rush. So that's the order that they give it to you in. So it's a minor deviation. Not a huge variance, but a minor deviation. Now, what that says to me is that they're looking to change the way that you play at early levels to train you into a certain kind of rotation and priority order. Now, I don't know whether or not that's actually going to work, because I don't know a lot about warriors. But I was able to master the whole charge in, once I got charge, obviously. Charge in, slam, and obviously in the middle of the time you're auto-attacking and slam again. You're able to build up reasonable range and do fair damage, and of course then when you get Victory Rush, you can charge, Victory Rush, slam, and slam, and that will usually kill pretty much anything. However, and this is, again, something I will note in the video, maybe this is not simply in the beta yet, but as a person that's played WoW before, I looked automatically for a rotation, or at least a priority order. It's like, how do I do DPS with this character? Because I've never played a warrior. Actually, no, that's not true. I played a warrior once. I tanked a Molten Core back in the day when some guy was late for his raid on WoW Radio. It was the WoW Radio guild back with Athalas, who was running a thing called Violent Noise. I was like, oh god, TB, we need to tank. He's like, I've never tanked before in my life. Come tank Major Domo. We'll give you this Tauren. And I said, verily, I shall goeth forth with this Tauren bovineth warrior, and I shall smite the demons. And I didn't really smite the demons. I almost wiped the raid, but it was pretty awesome. I pressed buttons, and I think Heroic Strike might have been in there, and I also respec'd into Improved Ren, which I felt was fairly important at the time. So, off on that tangent, as a person that's played WoW before, I look for things like rotations and priority orders. A new player wouldn't do that in any way. So if I go in there, first ever time I've played as anything, you know, this is my first ever experience with WoW, and I am a warrior. Okay. So what do I do with this warrior? Because I've got an attack button and I've got a slam button. Now, actually pressing the attack button is dumb, because obviously it stops your attack. All you really need to do is auto hit a couple of times to get some rage, then slam, 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 over and over and over again. And then obviously when you get charged, you charge in and blah, blah, blah. But the way that the whole zone was presented could have been a lot better in terms of a tutorial. So, before I talk about the bad starting zone, let me tell you about one of the best starting zones, because of course it is inhabited by trolls. The troll starting zone is an extremely good piece of tutorial work. The human starting zone isn't so much. It's not bad, but it's nowhere near as good at teaching a new player the ropes and showing them the variety of quests available and bringing them through a whole bunch of really cool stuff. it's just not as good. So, what does the human starting zone do wrong, and what does the troll starting zone do right? Well, troll starting zone starts you off by, this is your ability. Hit target dummies with it to get a feel for target switching, clicking on targets, and pressing your hotkeys. Okay, cool, we've got that, excellent. Now go and fight something that can actually hit back. Obviously, you go hunting for some stuff, and this also demonstrates to you drop quests. And now, you go fight something that's a little bit tougher and you're slightly higher level. So, go fight this and blah blah blah. So, that works really well for a basic tutorial of the combat system. The human starting zone starts you off with, obviously this is class dependent, but I started off with 2 abilities as opposed to 1. It's not really 2 abilities per se, it's attack and slam. I think the problem that a lot of maybe really new players are going to think of is like, well, say, let's take an example of another RPG. You know, a normal attack button. A RPG that has normal attack bound to a button. If I press that, I expect it to attack. If I press it again, I don't expect it to stop attacking, but it does anyway. So what you should really be doing, if you've got the rage, is to start with slam. But it doesn't really indicate that. And it makes me wonder, how could you teach somebody that? And how could you teach people the ideas of proper rotations? So, that's something they need to look at, and again, I'll demonstrate that in the video, which is hopefully coming up by tomorrow. Now, bad starting zones. Stuff like the Dwarven starting zone, right now. Complete total mess. The repetition and the running around is horrendous. You have to do what you can in order to try and retain people. And this is one of their big things. I said it before, I'll say it again, because it's absolutely true. It was admitted in an interview. They are prioritizing right now the retention of players that would otherwise leave before level 10. And how do you do that? Well, you make a good starting zone. Indeed, that's one of the only ways that you can do it. Make a great starting zone. And you will bring people in. And you will keep them. More importantly, give them the dwarf starting zone and they will want to jump off the nearest cliff. Because it's terrible. Absolutely appalling starting zone. Basic mechanics that go all the way back to the days of vanilla. And people say, oh, Total Biscuit's not finished, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it mostly is. They admitted it. God's sake, Blue said it in Blue and Black, I guess. Yes, Blue and Black. It's got to be true. If they said it, this is mostly finished. So there's going to be some minor alterations. You had poorly balanced quests that would actually kill you. The last quest in that, you would die. You would actually die. I'm not kidding. There are certain classes that can't do it because you get hit by 5 mobs because they're all aggro together. You go for the boss dude and then suddenly, blah, you know? It's pretty atrocious, honestly. And the funny thing is they don't tell you that because they're all yellow to you. But then when you hit the boss mob, suddenly all aggro and then you die, which is dumb. I mean, what's that gonna... That's going to infuriate a new player. And it's like, great, I get to run from the graveyard 2 or 3 minutes to go and res. Whoopity-doo-dah day, welcome back to the Molten Core days. Go to hell with that one. It's boring. And if that's me being, so whiny and complaining, then so be frickin' it, because I don't want to do that. People ask me, Total Biscuit, why do you never roll alts? That is why I never roll alts. Why would I want to do any of that? Someone explain this to me. How is that in any way entertaining? Oh, but you can get immersed in the richness of the lore, la-di-da. Hell no. The richness of the lore is Trogs be attacking. And oh god, we need beer. Yes, indeed, I am immersed in this rich and wonderfully detailed backstory that is, of course, far superior to freaking J.R.R. Tolkien. Oh, yes, indeed, it far surpasses that kind of nonsense. Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, throw them out of the window. Yes, indeed, the Dwarf Starting Zone is the latest and greatest piece of fantasy literature for the modern age. To hell with it. It's rubbish. It is an awful plot. You want to see a good Starting Zone plot? Look at the Worgen. Look at the Troll. That's where the good starting zone plots are. That's where the engagement is. That's where the story immersion factor is, because the story is told in actions and visuals as well as words on a quest log. You don't see me getting to ride around throwing torches at hundreds of werewolves in the Dwarf Zone. You don't get to see me driving around in a car or robbing a bank or engaging in a high-class dance party in the dwarf starting zone. You don't get to see me fighting along a historical figure against a Naga Sea Queen with a bit of a touching moment at the end in the dwarf starting zone. So tell me how that is acceptable. I am thankful, at least, that this seems to be a proper beta and Blizzard is willing to fix it, because I'm saying this now. If that goes live, that is a travesty. I don't even play Alliance, and I'm disgusted by that. My name is Total Biscuit, you're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. I'll be back after this. This is Axis with the Tales of Glory Island. We're going to be talking a little bit after the break about talent changes. Enjoy.